to a subject matter that's often taboo amongst our brothers. Let's talk about our relationships with women, specifically the black woman, which will also lead us into the topic of the feminization of the black male.
Right.
Even in the relationship, even those that are in a relationship with the woman often face those same dilemmas.
Right.
Of the threat of being feminized in relation to what society has taught the black woman in terms of how to treat her man. So let's talk a little bit about that subject matter, and I'd like to hear what you would say to other brothers such as myself, and even to yourself. You know what I mean, in relation to how we relate to our women and how our women relate to us.
Well, let's look at it this way. I have taught a subject, the macro and the micro womb of the black mother goddess. How many times did I do that lecture, Jai? Like once or twice?
At least twice.
Yeah, at least twice. Where I laid out the information coming from what the messenger of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad had taught us, and other brothers that have taught similar science about how we come from the macro womb of the universe. Elijah Muhammad words are different. He says we come from Allah manifested himself in triple darkness, and everything comes from that. This is why it's mandatory that we call ourselves black, but that's another story. But if all of us come from that particular womb and from that particular source, then the scripture says reverence the womb that bore you, and we need to do that. So when some of the rappers come across with writing derogatory lyrics in reference to the woman, oh, that's sad. Maybe they don't have this particular science that we have, and we need to make them aware of this particular thing. So in educating people, I got to put it in such a way where we truly understand it, not only from an esoteric point of view, but hell, from a surface point of view. I wanted to pull something up that I wanted to read to you that was given to me that could explain that a lot better than that I can ever explain it. And this was given to me by Professor Smalls. And what I did was I went back over the teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and basically we kind of talking about the same thing. But I want to give it to you to the point where when we go back to listen to this, people can say, okay, I understand what Professor Griff is saying, simply because he's dealing with it from an esoteric point of view, something a lot deeper than just on the surface. Let me pull it up real quick. And this goes into the higher science of the macro and the micro womb of the black mother goddess. There's a law that's operating in nature. And let me give you just a backdrop. Let's just say this brother was Muslim, this brother was Christian, this brother was studying the Ifa, and you studying Yoruba, and I'm studying something else. What I did with religion is boil it up and throw it in the garbage. And what I went and did was look into the higher spiritual concepts, and the thing that kind of the glue to all of these concepts. So I started studying the Kabbalion nature. The Holy Quran teaches us this, that if it be the weight of an atom, and an atom is hidden in the rock, and the rock is hidden in the earth, yet Allah will bring it forth. And Minister Farrakhan also teaches from the Holy Quran that if all of the pens were trees, and all of the seas were ink, with 7 C's added to them, you could not exhaust the words of Allah, because all Allah's words are not in a book. It's in the universe. So I took that, ran with it, and looked into it and says, what is Minister Farrakhan saying? So I started studying the Kabbalion, and I noticed that there are laws that are operating in nature that regardless of whether you call yourself a Muslim or Christian or whatever, we have to abide by.
That's right.
So I looked at the law of correspondence. As above, so below, as within, so without. Yes. Is that in the Quran? Yes, because Allah teaches us in the Holy Quran to stay on the straight path. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I hung out with Professor Smalls one weekend in the caravan to the ancestors, and he gave me this valuable lesson. He says, when you talk about the law of correspondence, as above, so below, as within, so without, whatever you see here in the human body, can we see it in the heavens? Because we adorn the heavens. We put the sun, moon, and star out there and adorn the heavens with stars. And we mapped out the earth in that exact same coordinates. So you can look into the human body and you can see how we mapped out certain places on the earth because we put it in the heavens. Are you following me? So all we have to do is go back to what the ancestors taught and stay on the straight path. Did the ancestors leave us a guide to get back to the God self? Yes. Where did they leave it at? In the law, in the natural law of the universe. So he says this, you cannot access that deep essence, right, using your enemy's pathway to get back to the God self. How am I going to expect him to activate his God consciousness by giving him the Bible but don't teach him how to unlock the mathematical code of the Bible? Are you following me? So it says, you cannot access that deep essence of the God self using your enemy's pathway, i.e. education, religion, politics. The white man does not know enough about God to know how to get back to God. He says he gives you the blueprint, his blueprint, so you can use his blueprint to get you back to the self, but it never leads you back to the self. It always leads you back to him. All right? So in the prayer, the Lord's Prayer that we have made to pray as Christians, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done where? On earth as it is in heaven. As above, so below, as within, so without. It's there. And then they even end the prayer off by saying amen, giving respect and credence to the black God, Amen-Ra. You understand what I'm saying? So that's the only way I can answer that. And I even put Holy Quran and Bible scriptures in it to let us know that it's there for us. But we're too busy calling ourselves Muslim, Christian, and fighting and arguing and debating rather than just being gods and goddesses. So he gave me this valuable lesson. He says, I'm 48 years old, which is my chronological, biological age. He says, if I've been on the planet for 48 years, then I've been collecting data, which formulates my consciousness. So you run into a brother who claims to be conscious. All right? So you're 48 years on the planet, you're conscious, fine. He said, if you do a DNA test on my DNA and put my DNA under the microscope, you will find that there's millions of years of history locked up into my DNA that's locked up into me. Only thing you need, brother, and you need is the method to go back to tap into the millions of years that's trapped inside of you. Then we'll know that we were kings, queens, and goddesses, scientists. So he says here, he says, if I can look into your cells and find that you were here for millions of years, you can only do that if you have millions of years of genetic wealth and experience that's passed down through you. That means that if you can remember, at least in your subconscious mind, you remember all those experiences that have happened to you throughout all of those millions of years, in your consciousness, you can recall those things if you just knew how to tap into your consciousness. Do you understand what I'm saying? He says, what is the thing that gets in the way, Professor Griff? I say, shoot, I don't know. He says, all the stuff that we have learned in our 48 years, called consciousness, is getting in the way. Can I prove that? Yes. How many times have you fell into the dream state and you visit places and you meet people while you're dreaming? We don't even meet these people while we're alive. That's a hint into how we can go back into the God self, into the millions of years to figure out who we are. Our consciousness represents and acts as the anti-you. So you run into this brother on the street and y'all argue about what Haile Selassie said, what Marcus Garvey said, whatever. Okay, that's the 48 years you've been on the planet. I say this, just to sum this up. Yo, Professor Griff, you know, man, there's nothing new under the sun, brother. Good. Well, today we're going to go past the damn sun. Right, you understand what I'm saying? Well, let's go beyond the sun then.
That's right.
And let's activate that consciousness.
No doubt. Yeah. You talked about why it's important for us to call ourselves black. Right. Again, revisiting my previous conversation with KRS-One, a very important issue came up. I had asked them, I told them a story about I was driving across country with an elder, and I put on the KRS-One song, and the elder immediately told me to shut it off and became very upset. And I was like, why is it that you're upset? This is KRS-One. And he said, well, I heard KRS-One in a lecture with Phil Valentine stand up and say, I'm not black. And so the elder was very offended by that statement. So I took it straight to Chris and asked him what was his position on it, so that I would be in a better position to, maybe speak, in relation to the subject matter. And Chris basically told me that he's evolved past using black as a political statement towards himself. He's basically in a different place at this time in his life, so he doesn't consider himself black. And that also led to an uproar in the room, you know what I mean, amongst the people who did consider themselves black and felt as though it was very important for us to continue to consider ourselves black. Also stating the fact that KRS-One is one of the main people who taught us to call and consider ourselves black. So what is your view on the idea of why it's important? I mean, you already touched on it, but just to kind of, elaborate a little bit, what's your view on the idea of why it's important to consider ourselves black?
All right. I'm smiling because Jai will tell you, I'm taking my son to his rites of passage. Mm-hmm. Was that not the lesson today?
What we talked about today?
We dealt with melanin. Mm-hmm. And the question I posed was, what is the essence of blackness? What makes us black? KRS-One said he's tired of using it as a political statement. It's not political. It's the essence of everything. We're going to say that slow. It's the essence of everything. If you take all the colors and mash them up in a gumbo, you come up with black. So KRS-One, stop. That is child's play, man. That's for third graders, dude. Seriously. Okay. Now let's get really deep. Melanin is what color?
Black.
Okay, you need melanin to do everything. Mm-hmm. When we woke up this morning and turned on the sun and put it out there so we can have light for the vegetation and so we can grow, melanin sits in a universe which is black. Melanated universe. All right? What's your favorite song? Just go back in the day. What's your mother's favorite song? Or your father's? James Brown? When James Brown first came out with that record, was it not on black melanated wax? That resonated with our melanin? And we knew what it was? We didn't need to make up a dance for it. All we did was this. Plain and simple. So you can have any subject with me. I could take you back to black. Okay, if that's not deep enough for the KRS-Ones of the world, let's go deeper. African Cosmology of the Bantu Congo, written by our brother Fukiao, all right, dealing with cosmology, all right. Fukiao gives us this lesson, all right. It says, now listen, we're going back to the macro and the micro womb of the black mother goddess. This is the reason why we cannot escape black, all right. He says, I'm a seed of a seed, of the seed, within a seed, of a seed, of the seed, which is energy.
Right.
Okay,
right.
So you already know, you laughing.
Right.
You resonated with it already. You know where we're going with this. Okay. I'm a seed, me, of a seed, my mom and dad, of the seed, the creative force that caused my mom and dad to get together, that goes into the size of the sperm and the egg and the chromosomes and that kind of thing. All right, which is a kinship to within a seed, which is the universe. Then of a seed, the dark matter, that the envelope that the universe sits in, of the entire seed called energy, matter. And we know that matter and energy cannot be destroyed, it's just recreated. What do you mean you ain't black? What do you mean?
Right.
KRS-One?
Right.
You can't escape it. So let's go back to the law of correspondence, which we dealt with a few minutes ago. As above, so below, as within, so without. The same energy, dark matter, womb, macro womb, that the sun and the planets and the universe sits in is the same way we come to birth. You mean you're not black? You cannot separate yourself from that which you call God. Anything that you try to formulate outside of the context of what I just gave you You're other than that. You're other than God. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
You can't separate yourself from everything that you call God. You are.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
We are black.
Absolutely.
And what we did, we set black in motion. And the root to everything is plants. Sun sits in black room. We're in a black universe. Melanin is around us. Melanin lines every organ in your body. Melanin is everywhere. You are black. Everything I can describe about KRS-One and what he does is black. The rhythm in which he says his lyrics is black. It's based on that natural rotation of the universe. It's the natural pulsation and rhythm of every organ in your body is mathematically coded. Black. So what part of you is not black, dude? Unless you're on this humanism stuff or this new age stuff that he was on a minute ago. Of course, then you're not black. But that's somebody else's thing. That's anti-God. That's anti-self.
Right.
You ain't got to tell us we human. We've been through that. We gave humanity and civilized everyone on the planet. And they still haven't caught up. As Jahi tells me all the time, Elijah Muhammad said through Minister Farrakhan said that we gave them one book out of a warehouse full of books. 60,000 books. We gave them one book. And look what they're doing. You understand what I'm saying? All those other books are trapped up in us. So we have to go inside of the self, and we can do away with this world and create another one. That ain't hard to do.
Indeed. I studied throughout history, going, let's say, starting around the time of Charlie Parker, all the way into John Coltrane, Miles. You see commonalities throughout history in dealing with drugs, more specifically. At one time, it was heroin, which, of course, we know comes from the poppy seed, the opium plant, natural resource. After that came cocaine, which we know comes from the coca leaf, which is chewed up in Tibet during times of fasting for the sake of energy. Today, amongst the musicians, we see the use of marijuana on levels much greater than maybe at one time. You know what I'm saying, in terms of its promotion and the activity and even its marketing as far as the different flavors of wrapping papers and different products that are in paraphernalia that are coming out surrounding the phenomenon. That also being something that originated from a natural resource, tobacco and the marijuana. However, Joe Pookum speaks about paraquat, different things sprayed on marijuana, maybe different chemicals that are put in tobacco in terms of the flavors and stuff like that. What's your view today as far as the generation and the use of marijuana and how it may affect the people? Because much different from heroin and cocaine, where you would see the results after a certain period of time. What are some of the pros and cons as far as your views on the use of marijuana?
This answer is going to be about a minute and 30 seconds long because I don't smoke weed. Never did. I've sat with brothers that have explained to me how the shamans and the other wise teachers and the griots and some of the other people tell stories about how we use certain plants for certain things. My father, being Blackfoot Native American, I used to go in the backyard and pick certain plants, crumble it up, mesh it up, heat some stuff up, drop it in water, wrap his wounds with it, and that kind of thing, put it on his temple, and this kind of thing. You know, we can look throughout history on how we've interacted with certain plants and certain things on the earth as medicine. That particular science, we haven't really taught these people. You understand what I'm saying? So this brother may light a L, get lifted, and be able to astral plane. Whereas the next person may light it, get high, and wig out. You understand what I'm saying? But that's a deep science, man, that, you know, we haven't taught these people yet. See, that wasn't in one book that we gave them. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to understand that, man. That wasn't in that.